Hey everyone, welcome to Body Language Across Cultures. What's okay and what's not?
Indeed. Today, we're diving into the incredibly fascinating world of nonverbal cues and how they vary so much depending on where you are in the world.
It's truly amazing how much we communicate without saying a single word. And understanding these unspoken signals is absolutely crucial, isn't it? It's incredible how much we communicate without ever opening our mouths. Studies often suggest that a huge percentage, sometimes as much as 70 to 93% of our communication is nonverbal. It's not just what we say, but how we say it, or even what we don't say.
Absolutely. Your posture, gestures, and eye contact can speak volumes, often more eloquently than words. But this begs the crucial question. Are these nonverbal cues a universal human language understood across all peoples, or are they deeply embedded within specific cultural contexts?
Exactly. That's what makes this topic so captivating. We instinctively assume everyone understands a smile, but what about a thumbs up or how close you stand to someone? It opens up a whole world of potential misunderstandings. Oh, this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Because what we think is perfectly innocent or even polite can be deeply offensive elsewhere. Let's talk about some of these gestures gone wild.
Indeed. Take something as seemingly innocuous as the OK sign, the thumb and forefinger forming a circle. Here in the UK and in America, it generally means all good or OK.
Right, you give someone a thumbs up and an okay sign and you think you're being friendly.
Precisely. However, if you were to use that same gesture in places like Brazil, Germany, or parts of the Middle East, you'd be essentially giving someone a rude, offensive insult. It's akin to a rather vulgar swear word, a simple, well intentioned gesture completely misinterpreted.
That's wild. And head nods too, which just seems so fundamental. A nod means yes and a shake means no globally, right?
Not at all. In Bulgaria, parts of Greece, and Albania, for instance, a single nod often means no, while shaking your head from side to side means yes. Imagine the confusion in a simple conversation, trying to agree or disagree. It leads to hilarious or sometimes frustrating misunderstandings.
Absolutely. And then there's the more subtle stuff like eye contact and personal space. I know in many Western cultures, direct eye contact is a sign of honesty and engagement.
It is. It shows you're paying attention and trustworthy. But in many Asian, African, and Latin American cultures, prolonged direct eye contact can be seen as aggressive, disrespectful, or a challenge to authority. Similarly, personal space varies drastically. In places like Japan, people often stand closer than Westerners might be comfortable with, while in others, an arm's length might be the minimum. It's fascinating how our ingrained habits dictate our comfort zones.
It's fascinating how much we rely on these cues, isn't it? But what's actually happening in our brains when we interpret a raised eyebrow or a crossed arm? Is there a science to all this?
Absolutely. Our brains are incredibly adept at processing nonverbal information, often at a subconscious level. The amygdala, for instance, plays a crucial role in detecting and reacting to emotional cues, like fear or anger, conveyed through facial expressions. We process these signals almost instantaneously.
So it's not just a conscious interpretation, there's a primal, almost instinctive reaction going on.
Precisely. And there's an ongoing debate in the scientific community about how much of our body language is innate versus learned. Paul Ekman's research, for example, suggests that certain basic facial expressions for emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, and surprise are universal, hardwired into us. However, how we display or suppress these expressions and many other gestures is heavily influenced by culture and upbringing. It's a complex interplay. It really is a fascinating journey, isn't it? But as we've touched upon, this world of nonverbal cues can also be a bit of a minefield, especially when you're navigating different cultures.
Oh, absolutely. You can have the best intentions, say all the right words, but if your body language is sending a completely different message, or worse, an offensive one, you're in trouble. I heard a story about an American tourist in Greece who gave a thumbs up thinking it was a positive sign.
The old thumbs up conundrum, a perfectly innocent gesture in much of the Western world, but in parts of the Middle East, West Africa, and even some areas of South America, it can be interpreted as highly vulgar or an insult, a classic case of a gesture gone wrong.
Exactly. Or what about the head nod? In most cultures, nodding up and down means yes, and shaking your head side to side means no. But travel to Bulgaria, parts of Greece, or even Albania, and it's completely reversed. Imagine the confusion in a simple conversation.
Precisely. And let's not forget the nuanced, unspoken rules around personal space. A comfortable arm's length in North America or Northern Europe might feel incredibly cold and distant to someone from Latin America or the Middle East, where standing closer is a sign of engagement and warmth.
And on the flip side, someone from a high contact culture might inadvertently make someone from a low contact culture feel encroached upon or even threatened by standing too close. It's truly a dance of invisible boundaries. These misunderstandings can easily lead to awkwardness or even worse, mistrust, if we're not mindful. So, after all that discussion about potential pitfalls, let's offer our listeners a nonverbal survival guide, shall we? What are some practical tips for navigating these tricky waters?
Absolutely. My first piece of advice would be to simply observe. Before you engage, take a moment to watch how people interact around you. Notice their personal space, their typical gestures, how much eye contact they maintain. It's a subtle form of research.
That's brilliant. Be a sponge. And once you've observed, then comes the adaptation, right? It's not about mimicking perfectly, but about showing respect for local customs.
Precisely. If you notice people are less direct with eye contact in certain situations, perhaps temper your own gaze. If hand gestures are minimal, avoid overly expansive movements. It's about meeting them halfway and demonstrating cultural sensitivity. A little goes a long way in fostering trust and understanding.
So true. It's about being mindful and respectful, ultimately leading to much better communication no matter where you are. And that brings us to the end of our dive into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication. What a journey it's been, exploring how much we say without uttering a single word.
Indeed. The key takeaway, I think, is that while some nonverbal cues might feel universal, cultural nuances are incredibly powerful. A simple gesture can mean the world, or indeed cause a world of confusion.
Absolutely. So, as you go about your day, pay attention to the unspoken. Observe how people interact, how they use their hands, their eyes, their personal space. It's a continuous learning process, and the more aware we become, the better we can connect with others.
Precisely. Cultural awareness in body language is an ongoing endeavor. Keep observing, keep learning, and you'll be well on your way to mastering nonverbal fluency.
Thanks for joining us.